Network, in partnership with the League of Women Voters of New York State and the Amsterdam News, presents Race to Represent, an MNN election initiative. I'm Elinor Tatum, publisher and editor-in-chief of the New York Amsterdam News. New Yorkers will be voting in state party primary elections on Thursday, September 13th for seats including governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and the state legislature with its 63 state Senate seats and 150 assembly seats. The state assembly is the lower house of the New York State legislature. Alongside the state Senate, it forms the legislative branch of the New York State government and works with the governor to craft and change laws and establish a state budget. Today, we bring you a debate among the Democratic candidates for the State Assembly in District 71, which covers Upper Manhattan and includes portions of Harlem, Hamilton Heights, Sugar Hill, and Washington Heights. The Democratic candidates joining us today are incumbent Assembly member Al Taylor and challenger Guillermo Perez. The third Democratic candidate, Luis Tejada, declined our invitation. Welcome. We'll start with you, Assemblyman Taylor. How would you describe the job of state assemblyman? And what do you believe are the most important aspects of being an assembly member?
I describe it as exciting. It's an opportunity to serve your constituents, and it's important to hear from all of your constituents from one end of the community to the next. What works on one block could be slightly different from the next one, and the needs, they vary based on the region of your district that you're in. I love it. I've served for 8 months, and I look forward to doing it for another 80 years if my constituent base will allow me to do it.
And in that short time, what are the top 2 or 3 things that you have accomplished?
I was able to pass legislation which would allow Division of Housing Community Renewal and judges to go back beyond 4 years to look at landlords' records to see if, in fact, the increases that they're asking for are justified. That's one of the pieces. The other one was I introduced a piece of legislation called Elijah's Law, which deals with daycares and facilities such as that. When children are there, that the workers are prepared and understand and can distinguish when a child is having an asthma attack versus a food allergy attack, and being able to service them appropriately.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Mr. Perez, what are 1 or 2 things that you have accomplished in your professional career that prepares you for a position as Assembly member?
Thank you for the invitation. And one of the things that really motivated me to run for the Assembly is the need that we have in our community on housing. And since I have a great experience on real estate management, and at the same time as a community organizer with tenants association and as a landlord liaison between tenants and landlord, that is one of the main things that have motivated me. And the second thing is the youth situation going on in our community.
All right, and how do you define the role of Assembly member?
I define the work as an assemblyman. It shows the ear, the voice, and the eyes of the community in order to represent the community and build bills that will benefit the community. I believe an assemblyman should be a direct contact with the community, and at the same time, a connection between other elected officials in order to create the best program in benefit of the community.
All right, this next question will start with you, Mr. Perez. New York State has a $168 billion budget. Do you think the district is getting a fair share of those resources?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And the reason why is because if we look at the numbers, the New York State Assembly has been composed by 150 assemblymen. And just looking at the numbers, we only have right now 12 Latinos assemblymen. And at the same time, our community has been composed by majority Latinos, and we need more people involved in order to get better proposal and better budget to our communities and our programs.
And what do you think about what the district is actually getting?
Wow, $168 billion budget. There were more things we'd have liked to see happen in our districts. I think the Assembly passed an aggressive budget, and there were some things that we wanted to see happen in our communities that didn't take place because it got stalled in the Senate. And at this juncture, at least when we were in session, the Senate had folks that were Democrats that had gone over to work with the Republicans, and the Democratic budget that we passed in the Assembly didn't get through, and we had the numbers in the Senate. However, they chose to work with the Republicans and align themselves. So a lot of things that we could have brought into our communities and to the city as a whole and be progressive was stalled in the Senate because of the composition of the IDC members, the independent Democrats who voted with Republicans, and they represent our communities, one of which represents the district in which I work in. So we could have gotten a little bit more, but it didn't happen because of that very reason.
So what was left out?
I think when we looked at bail reform, we wanted to put more money there. We wanted to put more money in housing. I think we put $250 billion into NYCHA, but that was just a drop in the bucket because
$250 million?
$250 million went to NYCHA. A boiler costs almost $2 million to replace these boilers. The infrastructure in our public housing is shot out, and there's not enough resources going in. So not only we weren't waiting for the mayor to put all the money in, but we actually stepped up and put money into NYCHA so that people could get heat immediately and not wait 6 years down the road for that money to trickle in. So we could have gotten more money for NYCHA and a few other different places. It just escapes me at this point where some of that other money would have gone.
All right, Ms. Perez, what would you do differently with the budget if you were an assembly person?
Well, what I would do is, there are a lot of damages, done to the community because the IDC situation with some elected officials from our area that, just brought to the attention that we are missing part of the budget to be exactly allocated on area like housing, elderly people, more jobs for the community, and at the same time working on health. We need more money to work on health plans, and it's about we need to concentrate on giving the community, the people, participation on making decisions. One of the things I would do different is, let's say, housing committee at the assembly. Why can we not bring that committee to the community and use college, auditoriums, churches, public school to have an open discussion with the community and make better decisions with the budget?
All right. Mr. Taylor, what are some of the major issues facing the district, the top three that you're hearing from your constituents when you talk to them on the street?
Employment, housing, and education. To my colleague's point, HDFCs are in dire need of help. I am a member of the Housing Committee, and I hear and I understand the needs. And serving prior to becoming the Assemblyman, serving for the former Assemblymember Denny Farrell, I work with housing issues. So right now there's a move to dislocate elderly folks. So there's always a fight. There's not enough legal representation when our folks are going into housing court. So that's another issue there. But housing is one of the paramount issues that we're having problems with.
So do you have proposals that are in the pipeline to address those issues?
I'm having a hearing. Correct. Let me correct that. I can't have a hearing because I'm in a campaign mode. But I'm having a listening forum where folks are going to talk to us about some of the issues. I'm soliciting information this Monday, I believe it's the 27th of August, where HDFC folks that are in foreclosure, I'm inviting those folks into a room, and we're going to have one of 3 series where we're going to talk about how we can help them stave off. I live in an HDFC, and my HDFC survived. We just got out of foreclosure because the attorney was very adamant about doing the work. But you have folks that have invested in places for over 20 years when it wasn't sexy to live in Harlem and remain in some of these places. And now we're finding that it's difficult to remain because the city wants to take them back and give them to landlords or developers for $1.
Right,
so we're fighting.
Do you have any specific proposals right now?
Yes, I want to have hearing. I sit on the banking. So the idea is to gather this information and then bring banks to a formal hearing to understand how they're able to sell and move properties that are HDFCs that are actually in foreclosure. They're in court, but the banks are still allowed to sell and move the property along as, what do you call, collateral damages. They're selling the property, and the tenants are still fighting to maintain their rights. So I want to do hearings, which is why we're doing the forums.
All right.
I hope I answered that.
Yes. All right, Mr. Perez, the same question. What are you hearing from the people of District 71, and what do you think the top issues are facing the district, and do you have any proposals for addressing those issues?
Yes, you know, one of the things we've been doing is meeting with group of people throughout the district and listening to different requests that they have and some complaints, and that is the reason why we're planning to organize, you know, having block president, having people in the community that will meet with the assemblymen, you know, every 60 days, you know, or every 90 days, we're going to have an open forum with the community and listen to the different issues that we have in the community, follow up, and the next meeting bring response on those questions. And I believe that it should be a better communication with our neighbors, our tenants, you know, small business people, and it's just about communication.
As in most neighborhoods in Manhattan, you can't help but see all the storefronts that are closed, the businesses that are going out of business. How do you suggest a plan to attract and keep local businesses open and new businesses starting? To
my colleague's point, for the last 2 months, we've been having open mobile office. So every Thursday from 4 to 6, I'm somewhere in the community with my staff, hearing from the constituents to find out what their needs are. And I see those abandoned stores are closed down. It's more a city matter than it is a state, but we're arguing with those same landlords. So, for example, I mentioned earlier that I passed legislation that talked about going back to see if a landlord has properly charged a tenant for a service in looking for an increase. And I think there is a relationship between landlords are holding for the box stores to come in as opposed to keeping the little ones. So, for example, we had Coogan's, which we still have Coogan's restaurant in our district, which was about to close about 6-7 months ago because the landlords were raising the price of the real estate. So it's kind of how do you get the real estate folks, which are sitting on the other side of the aisle, to understand that these are creating problems in our district, but it's more city than it is a state issue.
Mr. Perez?
Yes, you know, my point is, you know, you just mentioned that, you know, you believe it's more a city issue, and that is my problem. My problem is that, you know, when we as elected official, you know, if I become an elected official and the assemblyman, the next assemblyman, one of the things I'm going to do is, you know, it doesn't matter if that is a city issue. We need to work together as an elected official. We have representatives, we have a state senator, we have the assemblyman, we have city council. You know, all from that line that is District 72, I don't get involved on 71 because that is 72. You know, issues are issues. If we work together, we create a plan together, I believe the result will be much better and faster. You know, dealing with the small businesses, you know, all those gates down, a store for rent, you walk the community, you walk 71 district, and you will see every day, you see one new store closed. 2 more stores closed. What are we doing? We do have law in order to support the small business owners, you know, how to protect themselves in front of landlords. The thing is that we are not doing what we're supposed to do. You know, creating new law, I don't think we need to create new laws. The laws are there. One thing we should do is, how can we reduce property taxes? Can we do something?
If I can weigh in on that, it's not just an issue in the 71st. I know Borough President Gail Brewer has a whole litany of the closings that are throughout the borough of Manhattan. So when I say it's not a state, it is a city, and I'm always willing to work alongside with my colleagues wherever I can delve in. But I'm not going to sit here and give you some information and insight on something that I don't do. It is, and I work well with Gail Brewer, the borough president, who has a running, but it's systemic. It's not just the 71st, 72nd. All through Manhattan, we're finding in the West Side, it's the same problem. So I had a conversation with Mr. Gregory Bishop, who is Commissioner for Small Business, and so we're going to do a workshop to address some of those businesses in our community to try to stave off those that are having their gates closed. But you're right. It's important that we work together. But I'm one person willing to talk and work with everyone. Sorry.
Thank you very much. We're going to jump to another topic now. Currently, New York state law does not adequately protect a woman's right to access safe and legal abortions. Our only protection comes from the United States Supreme Court decision that Donald Trump, Mike Pence, and the GOP have vowed to overturn. That puts our fundamental reproductive rights at risk. The fact that State Assembly passed a bill to fix this, it's called the Reproductive Health Act, RHA, and it would write into New York state law a woman's right to access abortion that is consistent with Roe versus Wade. Where do you stand on New York Reproductive Health Act?
It's codified with the state, so I have no problems with it.
All right, Mr. Perez.
At the same time, you know, I am the same position. I believe women have the right to make decision. Now, I believe that we should follow the law. We should follow the law and make sure it's done properly, you know, based on the law.
Okay, I'm not sure what your point is there.
I agree. I agree with women have the right to make a decision what they want to do with their body. Now, the thing is that it has to be done based on the law. That we have to make sure it's done properly. That we have to make sure we are accomplishing with the regulation.
Okay, so you agree with the state laws and the Reproductive Health Act that has been passed in New York State?
I do.
All right, thank you. MTA and transportation, we're going to jump there now. Ideas on how to repair the failing system and make it better to serve your district. Thoughts, Mr. Taylor?
Wow. Congestion pricing comes to mind, and I think that may be a viable solution, which I'm ready to support, provided I can understand the details of what that would look like. There have been a couple of conversations, so I know livery are paying a little bit more money right now, and the city just did legislation that caps how many folks can come in right now, so they're not bringing any more Lyfts or Ubers, so that's good. But the idea is, how do we bring more revenue to help MTA? Are you going to charge the people in Brooklyn when they cross the bridge? You're going to charge the people from the Bronx when they cross the bridge, or Queens? So it has to be meshed out. And I think that's going to be the best way to underwrite the support that's needed to do MTA, because I actually made it here in 20 minutes. I was surprised today because the trains don't always go as quickly as they need to, or they're overcrowded. I ended up in a nice car. It was comfortable, and I couldn't believe it this morning. And I was here in like 15 minutes, maybe 20 at most. So putting more money in from the state, but also I think the city needs to carry their share of it. And it could probably use a little bit more hands-on, if you would, to make sure that resources that are going in are going directly to fix the problems that need to be fixed, and not administrative costs or anything like that.
All right, Mr. Perez?
Yes, I agree with my colleagues, you know, and Taylor. One thing is that I do believe they have enough money. I do believe it's a serious situation going on right now, not only throughout the city, traffic, you know, and but at the same time, we work the district, in our district, 71, you see there are some train stations on the renovation. You asked me the question, what's the the people, neighbors in the area, informed about closing train station before they did? No, nobody knew. I participated in the press conference on 110th Street and Columbus Avenue a few months ago, where we have a lot of handicapped people coming and complaining about repairing train station, about traffic, about accommodating our neighbors throughout the city. And it's something that they're not paying attention. At the same time, they're not giving the community the opportunity to make decisions and bring suggestions to the state and the city. I believe a better communication should be arrived.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to go to rezoning. The City Department of Housing, Preservation and Development, with others, unveiled an anti-displacement initiative focusing on vulnerable residents in Washington Heights and other areas targeted by developers ripe for rezoning. How are you planning to protect the residents of your district from displacement?
Well, that actually happened at the Inwood part of Manhattan. I support the community's position that they didn't want it, don't want it. I'm advocating all the time, fighting for quality and affordable housing, and even if we can build some more without displacing the people that are here. I grew up in Harlem, I grew up in this city, and even in the Inwood section, and fighting every day to make sure that we don't lose what we currently have. There's legislation that I've put forward that would help us to go back and look at this again and say, okay, how can we do what we're doing differently or do better so that we can maintain? It's not only just bringing new housing, but maintaining what we currently have so that people aren't being displaced.
Mr. Perez?
Yeah, I am 100% with the movement New York is not for sale. And we say that, it's not really on District 71, what is happening right now, but I agree and that we should take care of this, because we're losing a lot of people in our community, minority people and middle class people that are losing apartments. Right now, this is going on that area. And, but at the same time, we have to prevent that keep happening, and we need more money for more apartments. We need more housing improvement in our community. Today it's happening in Dykeman area, and it's happening in that zone, but that is coming throughout the city, especially in Harlem, especially up Manhattan, and we have to take care of this. I am very disappointed with what's going on right now in there.
Do you see the legislature working to increase the number of jobs brought into your district, and how are you working to bring more jobs into your district?
I'm proud to say we've had, and I continue to have, a small job development in my office where we're constantly looking for jobs that people walk in addition to sending to different sites. It's hard. But we ought to be able to bring more jobs to our communities. And what does that look like? Education will enhance more job opportunities. Housing will provide more job opportunities, whether it's doing construction work, whether it's doing, oh goodness, we're doing a program with coding, which kind of levels the playing field so that folks are equipped to do work. So it's not just what type of jobs are coming, but who are qualified to get those jobs, and how do we increase those jobs? I'm trying to clarify this. So there's a coding program that I'm working with that levels the field so younger folks are able to get a part. Our teenagers that are outside looking for work, that they'll be able to get some. But I also think that from a city perspective, if we're working and we're bringing in money to the state Division of Housing and Community Renewal, SNO, Children and Family Services, that will help provide more jobs when they come into the summertime, so half our kids are not unemployed.
All right. Mr. Perez?
No, we have a high crisis right now going on in terms of employment, in jobs. If you look around, there are a lot of construction going on in the 71 district, and you can see that a lot of people that are taking those jobs, that are holding those jobs, are not from the community. Many of them are coming from inclusive, from another state, to work. You can see the plate numbers when they're coming from, and when they leave, where they go. They cross George Washington Bridge, they go the 95 North, coming from another community. And I believe that elected officials, have to work on that. Bringing renovations, on apartment renovation, housing renovation, building new buildings, working on the school renovation, and especially for youth. Young people are coming, graduated from colleges, with a loan that they're not gonna pay for the rest of their life, and they're not finding jobs. What are we doing with that? What is going on in that? That is one of the reasons why I need to go in order to bring that response to the youth and the community.
And now, our question on immigration. The community that you're seeking to represent and that you represent currently is a largely immigrant community, and New York is a sanctuary city. How will you continue to protect the immigrants who live and work in your district?
Well, I've participated, and I'm not sure if I can say, Holyrood Church. There's someone there that is living there because they can't go back to their home in Long Island. And as a clergy, I fought and will continue to fight and stand for immigrants' rights, so that if there is an issue, and here's one of the parts, I think churches and other community folks, I would ask them to lean in and help support their neighboring churches and community, because there's a need. Folks are living in some of these places and they're not having proper food, change of clothing, and things like that. As a clergy, we've done a lot of work there to help. And as a legislator, I think we need to fight more and push back against Trump to make sure that these things don't continue to happen in our neighborhood. So when you look at legislators, possibly yourself and myself as one, we have to fight and toe the line. And I would say to the folks that are listening that it's important that you vote local, so that you understand that we're fighting not just in our cities, but we're fighting Washington to make sure those things don't continue to happen, and stand up and push back against the Trump administration.
I do believe that it's not an issue just on 71 District. I believe that we should motivate elected officials, in general, throughout the United States, until we get together. It's not about Washington claiming, it's not about Illinois, it's about all together, working in order to improve, what's going on right now. It is a crime what's happening right now, dividing the families, kids living in New York and family living in California. I believe that we have to stop that immediately. We have to create a way that we're going to work together in order to make the law stronger and protect, the human, protect people that are coming looking for a better life in the United States. There are a lot of things that we can do, but we have to concentrate on creating a plan as a team together.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to go to closing statements. We will start with you, Mr. Perez.
Yes. I really appreciate our friend Taylor, and I want to thank Manhattan Network for giving us this opportunity. At the same time, I do believe that we have to create a way that people participate. On District 71, we have like Latinos community. We have 53%, but only 20% are participating on the election, are voting on the election day. I do believe that we have to motivate. You and I have a big responsibility on making sure that people come to vote, because it's what is going to give us the power, and people participation will make a decision. On September 13th, I would like you to look at my proposal, go to my website, and go look for Guillermo Ali for Perez for New York, and search on my website and vote #1, online #1 on September 13th. Thank you.
Mr. Taylor.
I'd like to thank MNN for inviting me to participate. I thank you for joining us here today, and thank you so much for hosting. I'm excited about what I've done, what I continue to do. I would invite my viewers to support what I've done. Listen, we have a very diverse community. from one end of Manhattan to the next, at least in the 71st Assembly District. I'm proud to serve. I look forward to serving you, and I invite you also to visit my site, www.altaylor.org, www.altaylor.org. And I look forward to having your support on Thursday, September 13th. Remember, it's Thursday, September 13th, and collectively, we can change things.
Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for watching. Please remember to vote. A closed primary election will be held on Thursday, September 13th, and the general election will be held on Tuesday, November 6th. For more information on voting, locating your poll site, and all the candidates, you can visit MNN's election website, racetorepresent.com, or the League of Women Voters website, lwvny.org. Thank you for watching Race to Represent on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Goodbye.